when I was coaching and October hit, it just
Mhm.
seemed like everything started ramping up. So how are things going for you so
They're
far?
they're going. So when I first came in, it wasn't the ideal time period because I started off with Jasper. I've been there the last 3 years, so this was entering year four. We had the summer, kind of rolling and everything like that. We had already played a play date. And then this kind of ended up kind of transpiring at Oakman, and me and Coach Burns kind of talking back and forth, and had a lot of long talks about, hey, this is an opportunity. He understood, but he also wanted to retain me. My heart was still there as well because I've coached a lot of those kids for a long time now, and some of those were started off as freshmen and now are seniors. So I really want to see that through, but I really felt like God was kind of tugging my heart to do what I felt like I really needed to do. So I literally started at the very end of June at Oakman. We played our practice one day, had a walkthrough the next day, and we went to UAB team camp to play a play date. So it was just one of those where I'm trying to get to know the kids as fast as I possibly could to develop relationships with them. But it was definitely on the fly. But now I've started to kind of settle in. 4 months later, they kind of know me, I know them, and we got a lot of things that we need to accomplish. Obviously, trying to get the program where we want it to be. They're learning, they're eager. Sometimes, they get a little frustrated. Sometimes I get a little frustrated.
No.
I try to, my wife, she's a good reminder. She's
Yeah.
like, hey, just, it's going to take time.
Yeah.
And, coaches, we say, we want to be patient, but obviously, we wanted to get it as fast as we can.
Man, you want to win as fast as you can possibly win.
Absolutely, but we don't want to skip steps in this
Yeah.
because we want to build that foundation,
Yeah.
and then we want to build it brick by brick, and that's what we really been trying to sell to our kids.
Yeah.
Is we're not going to look at the end goal. We got to work on the daily process of getting better.
Well, you've got to instill your culture.
Exactly.
And that takes time, and that's not going to happen overnight.
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about the personnel on your team. How many returning starters have you guys got, and who are some new faces we need to be looking for?
Yes, sir. So we have four seniors. We have Tanner Pate. He was actually a JV guy last year. He can score. He really can. I was actually pleasantly surprised by him because I had an idea because we're kind of in a unique situation. Coach Jeff Ward, he served as the boys coach for the last several years. So he's still on staff. He's just moving only strictly to the girls' side of things now. So he kind of gave me, some things of, hey, maybe look at this kid. And we played him last year at Jasper. It was just a little different situation. But Tanner Pate, he can really score it. He's starting to kind of understand the game, and it's starting to kind of slow down for him. Because anytime we talk about, when you're going from that level from JV to varsity, it's a different pace of speed, different athlete you're going to see. So he can really feel it away. I've kind of learned his shot making ability is a little different than I'm used to. I'm not necessarily. I love a mid range. I do, especially if you work on it, because you got to have three levels to be able to play the game. But he can make some contested mid ranges that will make Coach Nate Oates cringe with taking, and I cringe sometimes too. But that ball goes in. And,
let's hold on to that thought for just a second.
Okay.
Tell me, I want to hear about your philosophy because this is very interesting to me. And I asked Coach Oates that one time. I was in the press conference with him, and I said, "Hey, is there a mid range option?" And he didn't really give me an answer on that. So do you kind of fall within that Oatesian philosophy?
So I've kind of took a lot of different areas with it. Just to be honest with you, we want to shoot the three ball.
Yeah.
I've been blessed pretty much almost every place I've been, whether a head coach or assistant, where we have some kids that could fill it up. But with the way that people scout, the way that they're looking at the game, they're not going to allow you just to sit there, catch and shoot, and be comfortable. They're going to run you off that line. So especially if you're a kind of smaller player, we work on finishing a lot as well, playing off 2 feet. I'm huge on that. But there's going to be some times where you can't get all the way to that paint. And if you have a open mid range, hey, if you work on it, I tell our kids all the time, there's not a shot that I don't want you to shoot if you work on it. Now, if I don't ever see you work on that shot and now you're sporadically shooting in the game, yeah, we're probably gonna have issues. But we work on all of that. But we want to go wide open three if possible, wide open layup if possible. Mid range would be our third kind of shot. I am common sense in my eye test, but I'm also a little analytical as well. And statistics show, hey, an open three is a really, really good shot. A layup at the rim, playing off 2 feet is a really, really good shot. But there is a time and a place with the mid range as well. So I'm kind of, I guess, if you want to take all of it together with it. But my philosophy is we want to get the best shot as quickly as we possibly can.
So pushing it a little bit, either get a layup or a 3-pointer and then defend.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that fair?
Yes. Our kind of goal is when they get on the bus, we're already guarding them. And I kind of got that from some guys or a guy that I played for, which I'm sure we'll talk about at some point. And another one that I consider my mentor as well. Because kids, especially high school kids, they're not really good at making quick decisions. They don't like pressure. So we want to make them as uncomfortable as we possibly can. Because, sometimes, we talk about you'll see a kid turning over and there's nobody guarding them. So if we add some pressure onto that, we want them to shoot a very quick shot that's not a shot that their coach wants. So I really want their coach to be over there like, what are you doing? That's where our kids can be able to feed off of.
What's the schedule coming up? I mean, do y'all have like a hard date where you can start practice, and then I think y'all open up with Haleville on November 14th?
Yes, sir.
So talk to us about the next few weeks.
Yes, sir. So we're allowed by Alabama High School Sports Athletic Association to have where you can be able to practice or do skill works once a week or you can actually do as much as you want to, but you get 2 hours a week. So we just started doing that because you get 10 weeks to be able to do it. So I want to strategically kind of do that kind of leading up to our season because we do have a lot of players that are currently on the football field. But we do have some varsity guys and some younger guys as well that I'm able to be with every single day doing PE and then 2 hours after school. But officially, we can start our practice without any limits on October the 20th.
Okay.
So that's coming around. It's going to look different than what it has in the past for me because usually I've had about at least half my team or half the varsity guys, if you want to say it. Right now we have 3 varsity guys, but it's really presenting a great opportunity for some of these younger guys to get some valuable experience, some one-on-one time. So now, like, for example, when I said something about Tanner earlier, he's a senior kind of going out. Well, now I get to be able to touch even some of our middle schoolers. They're with me every single fourth block. Mm-hmm. So we're really going to build this thing up to our youth, our middle school, and our high school as well.
I may have cut you off there earlier, but what? Tell me some other players you feel like they're going to be impacting, again, some new faces.
Yes, sir. So we got TJ Rogers. He's a big fella. He plays O-line and D-line for our football team. TJ, he's a workhorse. Great young man, high character. Tanner is as well. But TJ, he just wants to win. Whatever it takes. If that means he's not shooting the ball, he's just getting rebounds, setting hard screens. He's a hard-nosed kid. He just wants to win. He wants to go out his senior year the right way. We have another senior as well, or actually 2 other seniors, John Avery Caffey. He is a kid that he gets after it, and he's very emotional, and we're working on kind of channeling that in the right way. But he's getting to know me. I'm getting to know him. I fell in love with the kid because he wants to compete. He wants to be that leader that kind of gets Oakman over the hump of flirting around sub-regional or getting knocked out the first round. He wants to be the guy to get them or to be one of the parts of getting them to a regional. And then we got Caden Aaron. He's played some quarterback before for the football team, currently playing as a receiver. He's a very savvy kid. Doesn't talk very much. He kind of lets his work do his talking. And I can talk all day about him. Hampton Hall, Coach Ryan Hall's son. He's a big baseball kid, but that kid can play basketball. My son played with him in middle school, and I just kind of used to text Coach like, hey, I want to work with, like Hampton. He's solid. He's a sophomore. And it feels like he's been playing 700 games by now, but he's only a 10th grader. Barrett Painter is going to be one to look out for. He's a younger kid. He's an 8th grader. Tough as bricks. I mean,
is this Ben's son?
It is. And you can only imagine because how Coach Painter is, but the apple didn't fall far from the tree. He is hard-nosed. He don't know that he's supposed to be scared because he's only an eighth grader.
Yeah.
He has no fear. But he's one, and then my son or my stepson Mason Buxton. He's coming from Gardendale. He played some varsity this summer. He's a junior. He played a lot of JV the last couple years. And for him going from a bigger classification to a lower classification, I think he's really going to help us round out our roster. And there's several more that's going to be able to contribute as well. But I feel very comfortable with our 10 that we have right now. And then we have a lot of younger kids that if they keep staying hungry and they keep working, I think we're going to be just fine around here.
So y'all open up with Haleville November 14th, but one thing I noticed on the schedule is you guys are playing Dora at Bevel.
Yes, sir.
Tell us a little bit about how that came about, and then also some other games that were. I know every game's
Yes,
important. I know that.
Yeah.
But like, what are some other games or experiences that are coming up on the schedule that you're looking forward to?
Yes, sir. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to give our players the best high school experience they can possibly have. And that looks better, or it looks a little different for every single program. But I want them to really say, hey, you know what? My 4 years, 2 years, 1 year, however long it was at Oakman, there's not another school that I want to go to. I don't have any regrets. I had the best that I could possibly have here. So I got to thinking, and kind of Coach Hall, actually, he does some very unique stuff with his baseball program. My son happens to be a varsity player. He's played a lot for him. And he took these kids a lot of different places that normally you don't see a high school program and sometimes even college programs, taking their kids to. So I was like trying to channel something of that. And I'm like, well, hey, we have Bevel State, right in our backyard pretty much. And how unique would it be to give these kids an opportunity to play on the college court is, historic, that Bevel State is, Coach Clem, being able to kind of give them a little history lesson behind that as well. And
Coach Blanton.
Yes, yeah, of course, absolutely.
Oh, yes.
I was getting to you
right.
for sure.
Well, I knew you were getting to that.
But Coach Bridges, Bay, he is my cousin actually.
Okay.
I don't tell very many people that. Sorry, Bay. But he's a great guy, and I called him up one day. I was like, hey, we got this home. You're in the way. What do you think about playing a neutral site game? And I got to talking with Coach Connor and asked if he'll be okay with that, and he checked with his bosses, and we checked with our bosses, and we're like, hey, let's do this. It's a unique experience. So to my knowledge, we're the only school that's doing that this year that I know of. But I think it'll be a cool thing to kind of start where and they're wanting to build relationships, and that gives them opportunity if either program does have some kids that can possibly play at that level. Coach Connor's pretty much front row and center to watch it.
Yeah. Now, did you know that I was Coach Connor's assistant at corner?
I did not.
Yeah.
Okay. So what year was this?
Yeah, well, it was in the dark ages.
Okay.
It was 2002 to 2003.
Okay.
What year did you graduate?
So 09.
09, okay. So,
Yes.
so you graduated I was at Bevel from 07 to 09, so
Okay.
you were there. But I my first coaching job was under Coach Connor at corner. 02 to 03, I was his assistant.
Okay. Yes, sir.
And so anyway, a lot of similarities here.
Absolutely.
Now I've noticed that you're doing a lot of cool things, and you're getting your locker room up to snuff. You've got you're doing some interviews
Yes,
that are pretty cool. Just kind of an inside the den. Is
Yes,
that right?
sir.
Okay.
It is. A little play on words.
Yeah, I mean, I know a little bit of that locker room stuff. You're taking a little bit of a page from Coach Burns.
Oh, yeah.
But is that something that is just going to continue to be a focus? So just pushing kids out there and giving them an opportunity to have a voice, having a social media presence, getting that locker room up to snuff. Is that going to be kind of the Wildcat thing?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. So I'm big on our staff. Doing everything that we possibly can to give our kids, like I said earlier, the best high school experience. And we can't control, the fact that maybe, our gym's a little bit older, or we can't build, just go out, hey, we're going to build a new gym. But what we can do is God has blessed us with a gym, and we're going to make it the very best that we possibly can make it. So when I first walked in, Coach Ward has done a great job too, by the way. He's got them some wood lockers, all of these things. And we kind of took it the same step that we were when we were at Jasper. We're like, how can we make this the big time for them? And kids, they like bright lights. And I'll be honest with you, I took a page out of Coach Burns back in I guess if you want to say the little light dark ages, back in kind of the late 2000s, mid 2000s, when he first got to Dora, we were basically, I know you've been there in the dungeon, and there wasn't a lot going on with it, and I mean, he made it the big time, and we felt like we were like better than sliced bread, just to be honest. And I've always been a Jordan person, but he really kind of put that jump man on our chest and made us feel like, hey, we're somebody right here. And it kind of was a psychological play, and I did, kind of more studies and stuff. And what we want these kids, hey, we want to look good, we would feel good, we want to play good. And that stuff maybe doesn't help you win in the games, but it does give kids a sense of pride. And hey, look what we have right here. We're going to do the very best job we can to keep it up. But some of the interviews, we want to promote our kids as much as we possibly can, because Oakman always felt like it's kind of the little secret of the county. I didn't know much about Oakman growing up, but there's a lot of great people down there, a lot of great kids. So we want to promote them as much as possible. Maybe not all of them can go to play college basketball, but they can be if, a business is sitting there looking at, hey, well, this kid was on Inside the Den. He articulates himself very well, carries himself very well. Maybe we can get him a job here. So that's kind of our thinking behind it. But we just want to do, and to believe it or not, a lot of people do not believe this. I used to hate social media. I hate it. But I saw how much kids loved it and how much of an impact, and moms and dads and grandparents, they see their little cute baby on there. So we're like, hey, let's use this to our advantage. And anytime I can promote our kids or our program, it's not about us as a coaching staff. We want to do as much as we possibly can to promote those kids, because they work hard. Like, they really work hard.
And I know, I mean, social media is such it's an animal.
Yeah,
I mean, like,
absolutely.
and one of the things I've noticed is, you know, teams and players, and I mean, it's not just about wins and losses
Mhm.
anymore. I mean, it's, what creative things can we do on social media? I mean,
Absolutely.
that's really become, that's all part of, being an athlete now. I mean, it's
Absolutely.
not just what's going on the floor. It's okay, what are we doing from a social media standpoint? How can we push our athletes out there a little bit? So how do you think that's affecting people? How do you think that's affecting your 16-year-old athlete?
So to be honest, we talk in this in our core standard, selfless, and uncommon as well. So we really, even though we push our kids out there a lot, and we celebrate, their goods, we still want them to be able to realize that, hey, this isn't about any individual. Yes, this kid maybe led us in scoring, but he can't shoot, he can't pass the ball to himself and shoot the basketball as well. He can't inbound the ball to himself. So we really making intentional conversations about, hey, you got to focus on that teammate right there and creating a brotherhood, because it's hard in our society, because society doesn't teach us this anymore, even adults as well, where it's all about me. What can you do for me? What can you do for me? I want success now. I need it now. It's the microwave society. We want fast food very quickly, all of these things. So we really teach our kids, like, hey, the best meal that you can possibly eat is mom, dad's, grandma's slow cooked meal. And it's going to take some time to prep, some time to prepare. Maybe you start to smell it and you want to taste it. But if you just hold on and let that process kind of develop, hey, that end product and that result is going to be really good. But you can't focus on the end result. You got to focus on the daily process of getting better. So we strategically try to bring in a lot of people, because eventually they're going to they hear my voice so much, though it kind of sometimes becomes stale. And the coaches battle this all the time. So I want to bring in as many people as we possibly can to be able to kind of really kind of pump in and kind of help. Hey, this is a culture that we got to have, because kids nowadays, and we don't battle this really a bunch, but I have in other places sometimes where, hey, if we have a big win and this kid doesn't score 20 points or whatever, mom and dad's upset or somebody's upset, and maybe even after a big win one time in the locker room, kid was kind of, like just down. And I'm like, what are you down about? Like, we just won. Like,
Mhm.
and well, coach, I didn't play good. Well, hey, that I understand that internally, but hey, that kid did play good and you were part of that success.
Mhm.
So we really want to focus in on being happy for other people within their success, because your success is my success. And that's different. And we try to really stay and we really try to do the best job, this, particularly at Jasper, this of keeping our circle tight. Because there's going to be a lot of outside sound noise that's going to tell them, hey, you should be playing more. Coach don't like you. You should be shooting more. And human nature tells a kid, like, it's hard even for adults to sit there and turn that off. So we constantly try to stay in their ear, and I want to make sure that they all know their roles. And hey, we focus on being an MVP in your role. Just because you might be the last person to come off the bench does not mean that you're any less important than that starter, because you're helping that guy kind of develop. So we want to celebrate each other. We're big on bench effort, bench intensity. We're going to have a camera, not only focus on the game, but focusing on our bench as well. And if we have negative energy, we're going to watch. We're just like we're going to watch our film. We're going to watch that bench and, hey, that kid just hit a big time three. Are you in your feelings? Yeah, or are you in your focus? And I'm big on that. But get out your feelings, get into your focus.
Yes, that's good. You know, when I played, there was no social media, but there was also no internet.
Absolutely.
I mean, so you know, talking a little bit more about that aspect of it, have you seen some negative things that are going on, you know, because of social media? I mean, can players have to deal with a lot of negativity if they've got their own Instagram page or Facebook page and they're an athlete? You know, can that negatively affect them?
Absolutely. Sometimes kids get caught up in the rat race. So maybe this kid is ranked, and my biggest thing on rankings, I'm like, everybody can do a ranking nowadays. Like, if somebody that don't ever watch basketball, they can come out with a top 50, class of 2028. And I'm like, at the end of the day, rankings mean absolutely nothing at all. But it's hard when they have that social media and they see that this kid is ranked or this team is doing this and this team is doing this. Like, and, college is experiencing this with, NIL and stuff, that it really almost kind of it's almost like one of those battles that you're constantly having to face and really kind of dig into the kids. But I'm big on relationships, first and foremost, more than anything, because they're going to forget what you say sometimes, but they're never going to forget how you make them feel and talk with them. And I'm honest. I tell them all the time, I'm never going to lie to you. Sometimes you're not going to like that honesty because it's going to be something that maybe best friend over here or a sibling or a family member is not telling you that, because they're trying to kind of protect you a little bit. And obviously they want you to do well, just like we do as well. But where they're focusing on maybe just one, we have a whole program that we got to focus on.
But are kids having to deal with negative comments on social media?
Absolutely, yes.
Are people from other teams? Because I don't see it. I mean, but are they having to deal with negativity coming from other programs or other teams? Is that a thing?
Yes, absolutely. Sometimes it's internal, just to be honest. We've been in some situations before where sometimes that what we call on the outside, and we have great parents. And I've always had really good parents, but sometimes you have those, here and there. They kind of, can cause some issues, and kids read that stuff, they see that stuff, and in the past, we've had to have, some conversations, with some kids and with some parents as well of, hey, this isn't helping, because, you can kill a program easily. Like, and I don't really like using the word cancer or anything like that, but like one bad seed can ruin everything that you work for. And when kids get caught up in their feelings, and they see something, and nowadays, programs have these bar stools, right? And it's not necessarily the school running it, but it's like random kids running the programs and stuff. And they're putting out, and some of it's funny, it really is, but some of it, like, it's kind of borderline. And I want to make sure that, I want the kids to have fun, within our students. But when we don't want to put down people. We don't want to sit there, because you never know what somebody's going through. And especially, with mental awareness and all of that, when kids are reading that over and over again and over again, it definitely affects their psychology.
So tell me about that, because I've seen the Barstool stuff for high schools and things like that. But like, is there a Barstool Oakman? How does that even get generated?
Yeah, so
are they student ambassadors?
No, So-
this
so
is an
they-
aid gig. What's
It can be any kid because just like you can create a personal account for yourself,
yeah.
a kid can go on there and just say, I want to create an account today and I want to put like that opponent over there. And sometimes it gets personal. Oakman does have one. I've never really seen anything negative on
Yeah.
there. And I think it's my job as well as other coaches to, inform and, educate our kids. Hey, we want our environment to be extremely tough. Like we want other teams to hate coming to Oakman to play because of the intensity, the way that we carry ourselves and stuff. But you can still be intense by being respectful. Because I've seen we've played somewhere before where kids kind of got a little personal in the student section. And what I mean by personal, like putting moms and dads and family members into that. To me, there's no place for that. Like you can be funny with certain things, but when you kind of dabble into that personal thing, to me, that's not meant to be in basketball.
I know you've been a head coach before, but what do you feel like are going to be the biggest challenges for you from going from an assistant role back into a head coach position?
To be honest, as an assistant coach, is particularly at two places. I think it really prepared me more than anything. When I went from Fulton Hill High School as an assistant coach to Thompson High School as a 7A assistant, it was another world because I had always just been used to kind of Walker County basketball, and then I ended up going to Jefferson County. And then Thompson, they just had got into their brand new school, 7A program. We all know football, baseball, all that stuff, and basketball was struggling a little bit. And they brought in a funny story. I don't know how this even happened. I thought I was getting pranked, but I had no business getting an interview. But they called me. I applied for their head job. And then looking back at it, I'm like, what were you thinking? Like, gosh almighty. But I applied for it, and they called me. And now I'm like, it's part of one of them, like, let's check a box real fast. But that was one of the biggest blessings that could ever happen because I got in front of some really amazing people. And they gave me, you would have thought that they were going to hire me because they gave me full developed attention. They were like, okay, I like that. And it was, I feel like I can't really remember what I said, but I feel like really God was speaking. And they had already kind of knew who they were going to go to. But they called me back and they were like, or actually called the head coach that got the job. It was like, hey, you might want to look at this guy. He's not ready to be a head 7A coach, but I think he can be able to help you. So we developed a relationship. And when I say like I was a freshman head coach there and varsity assistant, coaching at freshman level 7A high school is almost like being a head coach at a 6A or a 5A or 4A because there's some dang good coaches there. And they're scouting at the freshman level. They're watching film. Like they're treating it like a college program. So that made me have to like up my game because I thought I worked hard and maybe I did and prepped and all that, but it took me really to a different level. And then with Coach Burns, I'll be honest, he gave me a lot of responsibility and I loved it and I wanted more and I wanted more and I wanted my job as an assistant. I always feel like is to make the head coach's life a lot easier. So if I got to take a bullet, I'm gonna take that bullet for you. We talked about this a lot because he kind of named me the head assistant there. But I was, when we met with the other assistant coaches, I was like, it is our job to keep things off his desk, where sometimes he don't even know what's even going on, and not to a point where we're keeping something from him from that sense. But hey, coach, we got this.
Let him do his thing, and y'all take care of the details.
Absolutely, because you can't sit there and try to do it all at the level that he's always done it at. You can't. So I really that was unique. And we had a great relationship. Our minds are kind of the same. I guess maybe that's for me kind of playing with him. Philosophy's the same. So he allowed me to kind of really do my thing. And I really think that really helped me prepare because the first time I got a head job, I wasn't ready. I thought I was. I'm fixing to go win 10 state championships in a row. And then I got there, I was like, okay, hey, it's me, myself, and I'm having to do all of these things. So it taught me how to be a good head coach or maybe a good head coach, but a good assistant coach, and just try to put kids first, or put God first in our program, kids, and just try to do the very best job you possibly can. And he was really big on, and he's like, you're not going to please everybody. Some people are going to love your decisions. Some people aren't. But at the end of the day, if you can lay your head down knowing that you gave those kids everything that you possibly have and you're doing what's right for kids, you'll be fine.
You know, when I got the Bevel job, so I had I started out at Corner,
Mhm.
and then I was at McAdory for a semester. Then I got the head coaching job at Marion Military Institute. Did that for 2 years. And then I got the Bevel job. And it was like when I got the Bevel job in '07, I just thought, we're going to come in here and we're going to win a conference championship year 1 or 2. You know, I'm not going to stay here very long. I mean, this is just my mentality, man. I'm a 29-year-old guy, you know, young coach, and I'll move on, you know, and I'll keep going up, and I'll end up the head coach of the University of Kentucky. And this is going to be what happens, you know. But I just wonder if I would have been a little bit more patient.
Yeah.
You know, if I would have said, okay, let's be patient. Let's go back to what we talked about earlier. Let's institute our culture. Let's don't be in such a big hurry.
Absolutely.
To win. You know, you want to win quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like Saban, you know, he gets there in '07 and he wins a national championship in '09. That's not typical.
Exactly.
You know, so you know, are you going to be able to have that requisite patience in this?
So,
this second time around, now that we've, you know, and you're a cornerstone,
yes,
right?
absolutely.
Head coach,
Yes, sir.
So now you're here. You know, can you kind of wait it out a little bit?
I've matured so much since then. I look back and
I'm not sure I have. But anyway.
I talk to our Oakman people all the time about this. So I was like named the head JV coach when I was 21, 22, and I was an idiot. Like I look back at some of those games that, like, you know, we filmed on the VHS cassettes, and I'm like, who's that guy? I'm like, oh my gosh, that's me. Like I looked like, I mean, I'm yelling for no reason over and over again.
Yeah.
I'm just, and it was, to be honest, like if I look back at that, kind of what you were saying, I was almost making it about me. Like, hey, look at me, look how hard I'm coaching, look how, and I don't want to do that. Now you can do all those things, coach hard. I'm gonna coach hard always, but it's not about me. Like I want to be on the back. It's about these kids. So I've learned a lot through the years of being patient, how to work with other people. Not everything that you want needs to happen right then and there. And I'll just be honest, I feel like really God was preparing me from a lot of different places that I went to, because there's some certain things where I'm like, well, you know, I thought I had this job and I should have had this job, but it wasn't his time and his season for me for that job. And I really think he was working on me, because God's not going to give you something that you're not ready for, because he knows we're going to mess it up. And so he really he dealt with me a lot about, hey, this is how you need to handle this situation. This is how you need to handle this situation. And Coach Burns was instrumental with a lot of those things. He let me have, you know, conversations with, you know, parents about certain things that, you know, back in, I guess, maybe 10 years ago, I probably would have just said, get out my face, you know, is take your kid and transfer. I don't care. But there's different ways that you can be able to handle things. Not everything, you don't have to be a butt about everything. And I think that's what I used to kind of be, looking back at it, self-reflecting, because I felt like I was young. So I got to show that I'm ready for this.
Right.
And it was almost like a childish mentality, but I really do feel like God has equipped me. And I used to put so much focus on winning that I've got to win a state championship or my life isn't going to be complete. And there's only going to be 7, you know, teams for the boys and 7 teams for the girls this year. And every single year that's going to win a state championship. So if we don't win one of those, am I a failure or these kids a failure? Like, you can't let that define you, who you are. And we were big on that at Jasper, because did we think we had some opportunities? Absolutely, particularly this past year 3. But, you know, sometimes we question why. Sometimes we do. But we always tell our kids, and one of the hardest conversations we had when, you know, we felt like our last game at Pinson Valley, we should have won that game. And it was hard because the kids were asking tough, like, why, coach? Why? We worked so hard. Like, why? And it was an emotional, like, part of the most emotional we ever got. But sometimes, like, just working hard doesn't guarantee success. And Coach Hall said this the other day to his baseball kids. Now, if you don't work hard, that guarantees you won't have success for sure. But it does give you an area to be in the conversation. But a lot of things got to happen in the right way for you. And there's always something to learn within when you don't get what you want. And how do you process that? Are you going to whine about it? Are you going to quit about it? And we tell our kids that, like, at some point in time, you might lose a job, okay? You might lose, maybe, hopefully not, maybe a relationship or whatever. Like, how are you going to let that define you? Are you going to just lay down and say, oh, I got fired, I'm going to lay down, or, just do this and that, and you got a wife and kids to feed? Or are you going to fight with everything that you possibly can within you to say, hey, you know what? I might be down right now, but I'm not out. So I'm going to do everything I possibly can to be able to provide for my family. And that's what basketball is. It's just tools to teach kids how to live their life.
Man, I feel all that, and it's like when I decided to go into coaching, when I decided that I wanted to go into coaching, and you may feel this way too, but like going back to Coach Clem and Coach Schumacher and Tinker. I mean, like Coach Tinker was
Great, man.
he was my baseball coach. Coach Schumacher was my basketball coach. I had these men in my life that I looked up to, and I was like, man, I want to be like those guys. And Coach Clem in particular had such a profound impact on me in terms of me wanting to go into coaching. He just cut such a big presence, and I just, I wanted to go into coaching because I wanted to be like him.
Absolutely.
And what happened to me was my massive ego. I mean, that's what happened to me is that, when you said that about, just the way you approach, your philosophy of coaching as a young coach, it was all about me.
Yeah.
And that's a very, very sad thing.
Absolutely.
And I have to live with that. I coached for 7 years, and I have to live with my massive ego during that time. And I've been out of it for 16 years. But I think that as you get older, and you start to understand what being a good coach is all about.
Absolutely.
It's not about you. It's not about, that I've got to put on this show or that I've got to be this caricature or I've got to, I know you watched the Wimp Sanderson interview.
Yes,
I mean, he had his plaid sport coats. It's not about that.
Exactly.
It's about the players. Becoming men.
Absolutely.
I mean, and obviously you want to win ball games, but it just cannot be about you. And I know I'm going off on some long diatribe here, but when you said that, it just clicked in me. And again, I'm going to have to live with that. So I would just encourage you, and I know you're doing that. And man, I know you're a man of faith, and I want to talk about that in a second. But just I think you got it. That hey, this is not about me. It's about those kids.
Absolutely.
And if they're not a better person because they came through my program, then have I had any kind of success?
Absolutely.
And I have to look back at when I was coaching and did I make those guys better men? Or the Lord can only make them better men.
Yeah.
But did I help them? Did I usher them to become a better man?
Absolutely.
And I don't know that I can say that, maybe with a few of them, but anyway, so I do want to talk about faith, and something kind of clicked in my mind, and the other day, and I was thinking about followers. I was thinking about social media, going back to social media, but I want to tie this into faith, and I know I've been talking for a long time, but I want to tie this in because like we're so focused on followers.
Yep.
But when you think about it, we want everybody to follow me. But I mean, really and truly, there's a person that was here on this earth that asked to follow me.
Absolutely.
And so that's who we need. Instead of the number of followers that we're getting, we need to be focused on who we're following. So I know that's such a huge part of your life, and tell me a little bit about your faith journey.
Yeah, so I was raised in the church all my life. I had wonderful dad and mom that made sure that I went to church even when I didn't want to. And sometimes I kind of went kicking, screaming, and all those things. But I can't really remember ever missing. And they made that very important in my life. And I was just talking to my kids about this the other day. At some point in time, like, yeah, you're in my house, you're going to church. But at some point in time, you're going to be out of my house. And I want you to want to go to church, not to please me, not to please other people, or it's supposed to be what you're supposed to do.
And not from a legalistic standpoint.
Exactly, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so it's about having that relationship with God. And so at a young age, I thought I had a good relationship with him, just to be honest. I prayed, I went to church, I sung, and all these things. But to be honest, I wasn't a witness for him like I should. And maybe that had to do some with my youth, some with, what are other people going to say. But kind of as I became a teenager, that's kind of when my shift started to focus a little bit. And just to be honest, like there were some times where I was really on fire. Like, hey, I felt like it was a summer camp actually, my sophomore year. It scared the beaches out of me. But I went to a youth camp and the preacher looked at me, and because we stayed in a cabin, and he like came there and was preaching. And he looked, he had no clue who I was. He was like, "The Lord's telling me He has a calling on your life." And I'm like looking around, and I'm like, "Me?" He's like, "Yes, sir." And I still actually have it on VH or DVD somewhere, but that stood out to me so much because I knew that. I mean, it's always you feel like something's tugging you to an area, but you just don't know because the world says, "Hey, you can't be cool and do this," or you need to have these followers and all these different people. So just to be honest, when I was kind of looking back at it, I was kind of living like a two-faced life, like just to be honest. And I haven't said that a whole lot out loud before, really. Just kind of personal relationship with me and God with it. But I was on in church, praising the Lord, even leading some services and stuff. But in the background, to be honest, when we started to really have some basketball success, that ego started to kind of show up a little bit. And we saw some things and we did some things that we should not have done. But it was one of those where, hey, let's be cool. And the whole time you can feel that voice like, hey, this is not who you are. This is not who you were born to be. And I never really got in trouble ever, just to be honest. I don't know how. My mom and dad tell me, you were a good kid. I, did a good job making good grades and stuff. But I think I was doing all of that to please them instead of just doing it just because like that's who I was called to be and to do. And so looking back, I ended up having a child very young, at 19, and that grew me up quick. Because like that was almost one of those, just to be honest with you, and it's a testimony now looking at it. People were shocked. They were like, what? And so when I look back, and I felt so much shame, just to be honest with you, because I was like, I've let down all of these people. Like they all had these expectations for me. I've let them down. And so it was one of those where I wanted to kind of hide, just to be honest. I didn't want to go to church because I felt like, well, and we had great people and they all encouraged me like, hey, you might have made, a mistake, but you're a child. But I knew at the time, no matter how young I was, 19, hey, I'm raising this boy. I'm raising him. At the time, I didn't know if he was going to be a boy or a girl. And I just talked to God, and I was like, you know what? I might have this probably wasn't your plans for me necessarily, because we can affect all of those things. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna be the very best dad that I can possibly be, and I'm gonna try to instill everything that I've been taught in me. And I'll tell you this real quickly as well. I was so embarrassed with my because my dad, man, he means the world to me. My mom, they were so good to me. And this is as an 18, 19-year-old. I wrote my parents a letter saying that because I was living at Belleville at the time, at the dorms. I wrote them a letter saying that, hey, this is what happened. And I went back and they're calling my phone.
Mhm.
I wouldn't answer. They're trying to come there. I'm hiding out basically. Because I thought that and it was dumb that they were gonna love me any less. And so we finally talked and everything, and they were like, you know what, yes. Are we disappointed? Yes. Or you go, I know who you are. I know who you were called to be. And so that was one of those where I'm like, because I'll be honest, I thought God couldn't use me anymore. Like I had messed up. I messed up my testimony.
Yeah.
I'm done.
You blew it.
Yeah, I blew it. Like this is my one shot. And so, man, when that little baby boy when he was born, man, I get emotional even thinking about it. I looked at him and I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna let you down, man. I'm not gonna let you down. And he was almost like my little best friend growing up. We kind of grew up together. And man, just to see the kid that he became, man. It's God's so good. He really is, and he changed my entire world around. Just to be honest, and that's one of the best things that ever, just to be honest, that ever happened to me. Because it made me into a man. Because I wanted to do good for him, but I wanted to set an example of, hey, that's my dad. And so now I've got two kids, a daughter and a stepson as well. And man, like it's no other feeling like being a father. And
It's the best.
and we don't understand it as much, even though as much. And I'm trying to explain this to my kids. Like I love y'all so much,
Yeah.
and it was such a blessing to look back at it. And he's a great young man. He's not perfect, but he makes great grades. He's been playing varsity sports down there for a while now. My daughter's super great. She's a cheerleader now that definitely puts a dent in my pocket. She was just softball, but and then my stepson, I was blessed to find my wife. I guess it was, I'm not going to say how many years now because I'm going to put myself on the spot. But I inherited my stepson, and it's been a blessing, just to be honest, but just to see the goodness of God throughout my life. But yeah, my life would have been so much different if I chose to go down some of the paths that some of my classmates went down. And I think a lot of that had to do with just my parents. And I knew what their expectation was for me. Like their C's weren't allowed in my house at all. And my dad, a lot of people used to think he actually worked at the school, but he didn't. He was like, he's one of the best men I know. He would go there, volunteer, and just pick up trash all around the campus, make it nice. And I'll be honest, yes, sir, Dora Summerton, he did it for part of the last 6-7 years. And I used to be a little embarrassed because, like, you know how sometimes people have this misconception about custodial, and he wasn't a custodian.
Right.
He was a retired coal miner. But he just wanted to do what's right. He wanted to make
what an example.
Exactly.
I mean, what an example for somebody that's, probably didn't get paid, right?
Yeah.
I mean, just did
No,
it.
he just did it.
He felt like details matter.
Absolutely. And that showed me a lot. And I didn't really, I think you get more grateful and thankful as you get older and you kind of reflect and look back of, man, he was always there. Like all these awards, sometimes I won't even tell my parents that because I'm like, oh, no, it's fine. But they were there because my teachers will make sure. And all it took was, anytime that I wanted to kind of get out of character, they were like, Mr. Driver, do I need to call your mom and dad? No, you do not. No, ma'am, no, sir. I'm fine. So that all kind of, it was a healthy fear. It wasn't like, but it was, I knew the roles and the responsibility and the standards that my parents had for me. Yeah.
One of the things that I've been thinking about a lot, and it really applies to this podcast. It applies to everything. It applies to, my everyday life, and it's like, why are you doing things?
Yes.
Having to think critically about, okay, Al, why are you doing this? And I struggle. I mean, so as a Christian, I struggle, but I struggle with, I just want to make sure that I'm in God's will, that what I'm doing is in God's will. And I told somebody this. I was talking to Gary Hollingsworth. He was the former Alabama quarterback. We did an interview with him a few weeks ago, and I was talking to him on the phone. I said, "Look, man, if I'm not glorifying God in this podcast, then I don't need to be doing it. If I'm just glorifying Al, and that's whatever I'm doing. If I'm just out here to glorify myself, then what am I doing?
Yeah.
And so to be able to have these kind of conversations on a podcast
Yes.
about faith, about growth, about Jesus,
Absolutely.
I mean, it makes it worth it, man.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I appreciate you opening up, and I appreciate you sharing your story.
Absolutely.
And I totally agree with you about, I mean, like, being a dad is it's unbelievable.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
I've got a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old, and both of them are they're just incredible. And
Absolutely.
so that's been something that's been kind of new for me. I mean, I'm a lot older than you are, and I've got young kids, but I mean, like, it's just been a huge blessing to me. So
I feel like kind of, the story of the prodigal son type thing. And, we're kind of putting me in there, but, you kind of get away from things of God. But when people plant seeds throughout your life, those seeds don't go unwatered. They're intentional. And so, I mean, I never got off doing crazy things or anything like that. But when I really decided, and when I let shame go, just to be honest with you, and guilt, condemnation, go from, doing something that I wasn't supposed to do, necessarily. That's when God really, He showed me so much. He's like, hey, I think about all the people that I used in Jesus, all the people that I used. I didn't pick the person that was perfect. I picked some messed up people. He was like, now if I use those people, what disqualifies you? And that really kind of, when he gave me that revelation, he was like, now show, like, all these tests that you went through, let that become your testimony so you can be able to help other people. And kind of the direction of coaching and teaching, that was one of those I felt like I was called for a while, because that's my ministry. I've done some youth pastor things as well, but just being around young people to help them, because I thought we had it bad, and I guess every generation thinks they have it bad and things. But these kids are going through some things, man, and they're like, they've got so much pressure, social media here, hey, you gotta look this way, you gotta do this thing. And that's why really God gave me the uncommon, because we want our kids to be uncommon. We don't want to be like this world. We want them to dare to stick out, because we weren't born to fit in. We were born to stick out. And it's not one of those arrogant things like, I'm better than you. No. But sometimes, honestly, it is like, I'm better than putting that alcohol to my lips. I'm better than putting that vape. That's not who I want to be. And sometimes kids aren't comfortable saying those things. And so they fall, to the wayside of doing those things. But and everybody matures at different ages, but I want to sit here. I want to be able to make an impact, because you said something earlier that I thought about. When Jesus decides to come back, when God decides for His Son to come back for us, and we stand before Him one day, He's not going to ask me how many games I won. He's not going to say, well, hey, you didn't win that state championship in whatever year. He's going to say, hey, you know what? You had X amount of people that were in your life, and you have stood before them. What did you do with that?
What did you do with my son?
Yep.
And what did you do with the people that I put in front of you?
Absolutely.
How did you treat? That is such a big thing. And man, I mean, he has been convicting me about just the way I treat people. And that is so very important.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think it's maybe, obviously loving the Lord with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. That's number one. But loving your neighbors yourself, and how you treat people,
Yes.
is so indicative of your faith. And so what did you do with my son? And then how did you treat the people that I put in front of you?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
that's such a huge thing.
It is, and I want to. I sit here and say I want to make His kingdom famous. I want people to know Him,
Yeah.
and not to see me, because I'm a very imperfect person, but I want to be able to live my life in a way that kind of shows that, hey, there's goodness of God, there's mercy of God, and I want them to say, hey, well, Coach Yarber said, I don't want them to say, well, Coach Yarber said this thing, but, I saw him here, or I saw him do this or do that. I want to live in a way that it's okay not to be perfect, but they see, hey, who he says he is, that's who he is. And it's not about me at all. And one of the biggest things, and one of the last things that me and Coach Burns kind of talked about, Actually, when I first got to Jasper, and it was a weird situation because I was a head coach, and it was it was one of those situations that God was calling me out, and to be able to look at it in retrospect, He was trying to get me back home, closer to Walker County, because He knew that my dad was going to go through some health issues. He ended up having open heart surgery, and if I would have still been gone, I had to help because my mom doesn't drive. So He knew all these things were planned out.
It's amazing how he
Exactly.
knows what's going on.
And Coach Burns had been trying to get me on his staff, when he was at Hueytown, but I was chasing this. I was a head coach. I want to be I'm not stepping down and being this, no,
Right,
coach.
right.
Like, I love you, but no, but and there's so much wisdom that he had and everything. But one of those things that a lot of people ask me this, they're like, because I started off my first year, I was actually the head junior high basketball coach at Jasper. And they were like, man, you went from head varsity of, a 5A program to head junior high. And, I was like, it's not about that. And I was saying those things, but kind of in the back of my head, I'm like,
there goes that ego.
Yeah, I'm like, you got to check that guy. And I remember him saying, you know what? Hey, don't ever let a title dictate what you're doing right here. Like, you don't need a title to make an impact. Because
It
sometimes
doesn't make you any less of a person.
Absolutely.
Any less of a person.
Absolutely.
Because you're the head JV coach.
Exactly.
Or head.
Absolutely. And I treated that, man, like it was a college program. And sometimes the kids didn't necessarily like this.
Yeah.
But I always say that I want to sit here, I want to coach at the highest level, but I want the highest level to be where my feet are.
Yeah.
So at Oakman, we're a 3A program. We're gonna run that thing like it's a big time. And it doesn't have to be 7A is the big time, but I want to make the big time where my feet are. It's not because of us, but because of the kids that God has given us the ability to be able to coach, to teach, to learn from. But that was one of the things that really stuck out to me because, sometimes we chase titles and we chase this and we chase this. And this was my first, this was my first move at Oakman where I didn't chase it just to be a head coach.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the past, I wanted to be a head coach.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, not every place is not every job's a good job. And you can make it, the best you could possibly, but sometimes it's not what God has for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been in, it's just a lot of different things where sometimes when we kind of are disobedient to a part, you figure it out then, big boy. But He can still be able to teach us a lot of things through those. It doesn't mean that He can't correct our wrongs.
Yeah.
If we have the heart to open up and say, hey, I might have made a little mistake here or there or made a little mess up. God, what are you trying to show me?
Mm-hmm.
And I spent a lot of last year because we had a lot of what I call kumbayas as a coaching staff, where we're man, God, it feels like we're getting attacked here, here. And we start really, and it brought us closer together, where we really we had a brotherhood, but we sat down, we're like, what is God trying to show us? What is He trying to prepare us? What is He trying to do through us for our kids? Because we felt like, there's a lot of different ways, and Jasper's great. It's amazing. But how when you're doing something that you're trying to do something positive, that's when the devil tries to show up, and he's gonna hit you from every single angle because he don't care if you're famous, but he don't want you to make the one that's that holds the keys famous. So we, man, it showed us a lot, and there was so much growth, and I'm still growing when I figure out and this is another Coach Burns saying right here, when you're finished learning, you're finished. Yeah. And he said that as a 17-year-old. I'm like, I have no idea what this guy's talking about. But then I don't ever want to stop growing. I want to continue to learn, to get better. Not only as a basketball, I want to be a better husband because I can do so much better. Better father, better teacher, better son, all of these things. I just want to continuously grow in our program and literally go back to being uncommon. I don't want to sit here and have these kids and I feel like the only way I can motivate them is cussing at them. That's not who I want to be. There's a lot of other ways that I can be able to get their attention and get them to max out their potential and effort without saying all of that. And were there some times where I felt like I had to do those things? Yes. And looking back, I'm like, man, but I'll tell you this real fast. When you have a kid, and I know you've had this, a former player that they come back and, maybe it's been some years that's passed and you see them be a good father or a good daughter or son or husband, and you see they're successful. That's one of the coolest things in the world. And I've got some kids, or no, not kids, another grown man, and NFL, NBA, all these things. And that's proud. But also the ones that maybe didn't play a lot and they're like, hey coach, I remember you said this. This helped me become a better father. And I'm like, really? Like, I thought I was an idiot. Maybe I was, but they did grasp something that God got through my being an idiot, and maybe I even said it and I didn't even realize.
And those are the things that are going to last.
Absolutely.
I mean, those are the things like the wins and the trophies. They're just going to be rust and dust. I mean, you may have some memories of a win, but the lasting impression that you put on a kid as they move into adulthood and life, that's what really matters.
Absolutely.
I want to talk about your basketball life. This may be a little bit of an odd question, but I want to talk about your basketball life outside of Oakman basketball, outside of this microcosm for you.
Okay.
I'm interested in this. So do you watch college basketball?
Mm-hmm.
Do you watch NBA basketball? Who's your guy? Do you do fantasy? This is terrible. I've got 4 fantasy NBA teams already. I'm locked in. I'm ready to go. I'm probably going to win every league.
Hey, we're going to do it.
We're going to do it. So, but like, tell me about your basketball life outside of Oakman.
Yeah, so as much as I possibly can, I'm a huge college basketball fan.
Okay.
Huge. And Alabama's my team. But one of my former players made it very hard the last couple of years. Chaney Johnson. My wife's a huge AU fan. I am not. But I told him when he told me that's where he was going, I was like, oh my gosh. But I love you, kid. I'm gonna say War Eagle. And I went to a game last year at Vanderbilt, and they were struggling on the road. And Chaney had one of his best games of his career. And they do like the little whatever. And I'm over here before I even know it. I'm over here doing this. I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on with me? But I'm just a college basketball junkie. Alabama, Auburn, UAB, Sanford. I love the locals. But also I was a Duke guy. I always felt like it was the D for driver. I always felt like that. I was like, that was logos for me. That's my last name.
Now it's the D for door.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then we took that, changed the blue a little bit darker.
Yeah.
But love watching college basketball. I was a Mike Anderson guy when he was at UAB. When he had his 40 minutes of, and I kind of made that when I first started to coach. It was like 32 minutes of organized chaos or whatever. But I love to watch it. NBA, it's become a little different now. I do like to watch it during playoff time, regular season. Sometimes I don't because sometimes you'll see kind of some bad basketball. And our kids, I think kids don't watch basketball enough, and I talk to our kids about this all the time. Like they watch highlights and clips, so they watch somebody 360.
Right.
It's
hard for a kid or really anybody to sit down and watch an entire game anymore.
And I'll be honest, the way that I'm wired, it's so hard for me to watch a game because I can't watch it as a fan. I'm watching it as a basketball coach. So I'm saying, oh, look at that back screen right there that came off to a flare. They said a back screen, then they flared that guy out right there. Oh, let me jot that down. My wife's like, well, you just
you're almost watching it as a student.
Exactly. Absolutely.
That's what I loved when I was coaching. When I was coaching, I loved to watch college basketball games because I was taking notes. I was coming up with ideas, and now that I'm not doing that, I can just kind of watch the game, and I'm still doing it a little bit, but I can appreciate the game for what it is.
Absolutely. And I know college sports is in a very weird place. I know kind of like a love, and I'm not saying all of them don't have a love for their institution and all that, but I know a lot of it's a business now and everything, but I still feel like there's a lot of people, for example, Chaney, where, he was getting, money, of course, and stuff like those through the NIL deals and things. But he loved that place. And we would talk and he would say, how this assistant's helping him grow as a man and how Coach, he called him BP, Coach Pearl, he taught him this or taught him this and that. And he loved, he wanted to stay another year. He wanted to get that extra year of eligibility and things. But I love to watch it now. Once our season kind of tips off, it's a little bit harder because it's hard for me to shut my mind off. So when I get home from a practice or a game, I'm trying to dissect our film from that practice, that game, and I try to watch their stuff. But also, I believe, and I ran myself into the ground a couple years ago where I was staying up to 3, 4, 5 in the morning watching film, and because I'm like I gotta get everything right, and so when I get to practice, like. I'm over here, and I told you earlier, I'm not a coffee guy, so I'm over here trying to develop some organic energy right here, and I'm like, hey, you know what? I've got to take care of myself too now because I'm doing all these things for the kids, which is great, but I'm not gonna last very long in this. At all, but I love watching college basketball, NBA during playoff time. I do not. I haven't done the fantasy league before or anything like that. I tried to dabble, and I was like, I'm terrible at this, like at all.
It's odd because I'm really bad at fantasy football. But I'm awesome at fantasy baseball, and I'm good at fantasy NBA basketball. And I got away from NBA for about 10 years there, but it's gotten me back into the game. But it's like this mindless activity.
Yes.
It's like I need some sort of default mindless activity.
Yes.
And it's competitive too, which you add that element to it. But I like it's gotten me back in the NBA more, and that's what I like about it.
Absolutely.
I mean, like 90s NBA, I want to talk about going back to the question who your guy is, because I mean, like Jordan was my guy, but 90s NBA was to me the classic era, the best era of the NBA basketball, and I miss that.
Absolutely.
And I've been able to, Jonathan Sanford, he's the PA announcer for the Rockets, and I was able to go to a Rockets Golden State Warriors game last year, and which I was about 10 feet from Steph Curry and Draymond Green and all those guys. It was just incredible. But so I'm getting back into it a little bit. But Jordan was my guy. So who's your guy?
So growing up, young, obviously, Jordan for sure. 23, that Chicago Bull intro comes on. We still do that for our intro now. Yeah. It's just something about that Jumpman logo, tongue out. Yeah. But it's kind of when I started to kind of get a little bit older, I saw this guy that was kind of very much Jordan-like in a lot of ways, Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
And when I say like I was a big Kobe Bryant fan, Mamba mentality. I've got a little logo thing in our locker room that has a Mamba mentality, and just the way that he approached the game in Jordan as well. It was so cerebral with what they did. Like they basically they psyched their opponents out before they ever even played.
Oh, the mental aspect of it, they had it better than anybody.
Absolutely, and not like obviously this gonna sound crazy. Like they were very talented, but they're like some of these kids nowadays. They're crazy athletic. But they were so skilled, and sometimes people don't really talk about their footwork and how they can get to their spots.
Creating space.
Yes, and sometimes, I ask kids, hey, what's your spot? What's your go-to? They're like, Coach, you talking about food? Like, I like Chick-fil-A.
Right.
I know where, like, if you get to this spot on the court, it's a bucket. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
So kids don't really have that because they want to sometimes, pound the ball and, like, okay, you're in the same spot, buddy. Like, what's going on? But Kobe, Jordan, huge on that. Steph Curry, I like him as well. He's changed the game. Sometimes in a kind of not so great way because you'll have, 2-year-olds. They got a basketball. They're over there at the 3-point line, and that makes it hard for us coaches because we're trying to change everybody's shot now because, they're growing up trying to, at 5 or 6, youth league, they're trying to shoot threes, and they barely can even, like, hit a layup. So now when they get in high school, they're still shooting like that.
Yeah.
But Steph Curry, the way that he competes, the way that he leads, and all of those guys, they all had something in common where they demanded the best out of their teammates. And sometimes it's uncomfortable conversations. And we talk about that with our kids. But you better make sure that your glass is clean before you try to clean somebody else's. So if you're not, and it takes an uncommon player where it's hard to be a leader when you're not first in every sprint.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to be first in every sprint. Jordan, Kobe, for everything that I ever read, they were first in it almost every single sprint. And it's a lot easier to demand everyone's best when you're not the 15th guy in the line trying to tell somebody else that they need to run harder. So it's one of those where you can lead with your words, you can lead with your actions, but you want to be that teammate that, hey, if we're in the foxhole together, and I know basketball is not war at all, but if it's me and you, I like our chances. And that's what we're trying to tell our kids.
Well, man, I appreciate your time. This has been awesome.
I appreciate you.
I really we'll be watching this year, and I wish you the very best in year one.
I appreciate it. Pray for us, and go Wildcats.
Thanks, man.
Yes,
Appreciate
sir.
you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.